By the way, while you say that, we've got the image up next to you of him standing at the balcony, and I'll ask you about just that, because there's another vantage point where the president, he had just taken off his mask, he stands at the balcony, and then you see a photographer quickly behind him. And when we were speaking to doctors earlier, they said, well, it's okay, he was standing alone. He wasn't. There was a photographer very close in proximity to a man who's been diagnosed with COVID-19 and is still very much sick with it.
Let me address the first point and then get to that. The first is, in times like this, in these moments in our country, it's highly important that the commander-in-chief express confidence to our domestic population, but it's also very important to our allies and adversaries who are watching closely to see, is he projecting an image of strength? And that is exactly what he did last night. Precautions were taken. His mask was not taken off until he was distanced from others. But I want to make sure that with regard to the photographer, this was a brief interaction. What we know about this virus is its prolonged exposure and contact. Our photographers know to wear a mask. We know when we work with the president, wear your mask, keep your distance. I think this is much ado about nothing by the media. I would say this: the world and the American people needed to see their president strong and leading, and that's exactly what he's doing. We feel comfortable working here. Those of us who are still here, we are taking precautions in the West Wing. It's a serious time. We need to be washing our hands. We need to be wearing masks when we can't socially distance, but that's just not representative of the vibe in the White House. If anything, the team has been highly inspired by the president's just strong leadership through this.
There have been a lot of unfortunate recurring themes in this administration, but putting people's lives at risk for Trump's photo ops has to be one of the worst. Only weeks after Trump tear-gassed peaceful protesters so he could awkwardly hold up a Bible in front of St. John's Episcopal Church, Trump most recently decided that he would make a big show of himself leaving Walter Reed Hospital in some Mussolini moment on the White House balcony. And while in his mind he saw some grandiose display of courage and leadership, the rest of us saw a guy gasping for air while still infected with the same virus that he himself failed to contain. But here's the thing, we frankly expected Trump to get it. His response to this entire pandemic has been that of mismanagement and recklessness, so him contracting it isn't surprising. But what's still shocking is how willing he is to put those around him at risk. Trump had the White House photographer there to take photos of him, even though Trump wasn't wearing a mask and is still contagious with the virus. And now that photographer has been exposed, meaning that he'll have to quarantine for 14 days and can't even see his own family. All because Trump thought that him standing there saluting to no one was going to be some defining point of his presidency, the moment that he overcame the virus, or whatever strongman rhetoric he's convinced himself of to spin this as a win. But it wasn't, and the American people could see that. All it was an act of selfishness otherwise unmatched in American history. I also have to say, my favorite line from this entire segment is Trump's communications director, Alyssa Farah, saying, quote, "We feel comfortable working here, those of us who are still here." I don't quite think that inspires the level of confidence that she thinks it does. The reason they're operating with a skeleton crew in the White House is because coronavirus is ripping through it. Aside from Donald Trump testing positive, there's also Melania Trump, Stephen Miller, Kellyanne Conway, Kayleigh McEnany, and 4 of her deputies, campaign manager Bill Stepien, Trump's personal assistant Nick Luna, and that list seems to be growing by the hour. So again, not quite sure that claiming that those who haven't yet been infected with the deadly virus couldn't be happier is the selling point that she thinks it is here. She goes on to say that it's highly important that the commander-in-chief express confidence to both Americans and our adversaries. But here's the thing, Trump standing on a balcony gasping for air doesn't inspire any confidence. It shows us a man who's not only sick, but sick from his own doing. He was the one who refused to listen to science. He was the one who didn't wear a mask. He was the one who insisted on a mass gathering with no social distancing. This isn't anything other than the consequences of his own actions. All this says to the American people and our adversaries abroad is that we're being led by a fool who can't even take care of himself, much less this country. If Trump spent even a fraction of the time on actually solving the coronavirus outbreak, as he does on, quote, projecting an image of strength, this thing would have been over in March. We're losing 1,000 people a day in this country. No one cares what Donald Trump looks like or what image he's projecting. If Trump needs to satisfy some burning need to prove how masculine he is, go to the gym, burn through a few sets. But putting an innocent photographer's life at risk, putting innocent White House staffers' lives at risk, sending dangerous messages to his supporters that will ultimately hurt innocent Americans, none of those convey masculinity. They convey the opposite. They convey a guy who's too insecure, and so he needs these shallow displays of strength, like taking off a mask to pick up the slack. That's not strength, it's weakness, and the entire world can see that. I have an announcement, and that is that I'll be live streaming the next debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence on Wednesday, October 7th with a special pre-show guest, Mary Trump. So to watch our commentary and then hear my real-time fact-checking of the debate, head on over to my YouTube channel, and next to the debate video at the top of the page, click Set Reminder. See you Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.